Hi, everyone. Welcome to our second video in our series called the Parenting Academy. Here we are presenting the fundamentals of all the topics we cover at the Parenting Academy when we have these sessions face to face in group. I want to welcome you again. This is video number 2. We're going to be talking about how do we get to know our children, how to know them better, how to know them in a way that will help us to help them to raise them in the direction that we talked about in the previous video. From here on, you're going to need the homework that was assigned in the last section of video number 1. So please, if you have not done it, you need to stop this video and go back and work on that assignment. Remember, it is one issue per child. We are going to build what we call the parenting map, which is a very detailed uh, plan to help one of our children with one issue. So if you have multiple issues with one of your children, you're going to need different parenting maps. If you want to work with different children, with you have more than one child, you're going to need one parenting map for each one of them. So work on that, please. If you have not done it, if you have not done it, if you're done it, if you have done it, then let's keep on going. As I mentioned, we're going to talk about how do we get to know our children, and that is fundamental if we're going to pursue parenting in a way that is beneficial for everyone. I believe that we have different obstacles for us parents to know our children, but I would like to put them together in 3 categories. Now, each one of these categories can have different expressions or manifestations of these issues or of this obstacle, but I think that generally speaking, we can group them in these 3 areas. The first one is that we are busy. Life is extremely busy. We are doing many things, not only us, the adults, but also the children. Even, they may be adults also, but we get busy, and we get so busy that we don't have time to get to know them or to know them better. We are busy. They are busy mainly with school. They go to school X number of hours a day, then they have their homework, and then they have extra activities, right? Extra school activities. Very often, this busyness is self-imposed. We are the ones that get our kids busy. We are the ones that get them involved in different activities, either because we are concerned about their improvement in academic skills or social skills, or we may be afraid of having them at home bored and doing nothing. So we get them busy, and sometimes this busyness gets out of hand, and now we don't have the time to get to know them, or we don't have the energy to get to know them. So busyness is the first category of obstacles that prevent us from knowing them. The second is that we assume too much. Assuming too much is a problem, and again, it manifests itself in different ways. If you're a first generation immigrant, for us, first generation immigrants, we assume, for instance, that our children will react, will respond in the same way that we did back in the old country. That because you and I were raised in a certain way, and you and I responded in a certain way to discipline and parenting back at our countries of origin, our children will do the same. And we assume that. Sometimes we expect that. But that is not the case. This is a different place. This is a different situation. If you have been in this country for several generations, you may be assuming that somebody else will help you, right? After all, we live in this society where our kids are involved in many different things. So I'm not the only one investing in raising up my child. Um, Maybe church, maybe the school, maybe the government in any other form, maybe youth activities or no activities, organizations that are investing in the life of my children. I mean, somebody will come, right? We assume that this is going to be the problem, is going to be fixed altogether. And then we assume also um, that maybe the challenges that we're facing are going to go away, which is also part of the other category that I have here, which is we are passive. We are just stepping back, not taking that role of parents or leaders or leading our family, our children, and we are very passive. Again, we may have good reasons for this. Maybe we want to give our children their space. Maybe we want to give them room to grow. We don't want to asphyxiate them. We don't want to oppress them. So we take a step back. But then there's really nobody leading. And the truth is that you and I, as parents, we are the ones that are responsible, and we're called by God to raise our children. That's the way God designed the family. So even when we have other organizations with very good intentions, it's ultimately our responsibility. We are the ones with authority over our children, and we are the ones that delegate that responsibility, that authority to other organizations or other individuals. So we must not take a passive attitude. And again, sometimes we think, well, the problems that I'm having with my kids, they're going to go away eventually. So all these three different categories are, I believe, the source of obstacles for us to know our children. Now, when I say know your child, know your children, what I mean is this: that at any time, at any given moment, you and I, we must know how they're doing mentally, spiritually, physically, emotionally. And I know it's a lot, but all these four areas, they integrate the whole person. They represent the whole individual. And that's what we want to know. All of them. We want to know how they're doing emotionally, what kind of emotions they're dealing with. We want to know about their fears, about their hopes. We want to know how they're doing at school, how they're dealing with jobs, how they're doing or dealing with relationship, with other relationships, how they're for spiritual formation going. We want to know the whole individual. So how do we do it? And it's a lot of work. Yes, it is. Again, you need to go back to the first video when we talk about the length of being a parent. So how do we do it? Well, two ways, or the answer has two sides. The first one is this: that we must be faithfully present. Faithful presence is required so that we may know how our kids are doing in those four areas, all of them, their whole being. Um, and it requires time, of course, quality times, not necessarily the amount of time, but the quality of the time is what is important here. And it means this: it means that basically, it means that when we are with our child, that we pay attention, that we listen, that we interact if it's possible. Don't forget, communication can be verbal or nonverbal. Their attitude, the way they do things, can tell us a lot about their character and what's going on with them. So we must be faithfully present. We must pay attention when we have these opportunities. In being faithfully present, we are expressing humility because we are telling everyone, us and everyone else, our children, that we can learn something here. That is not we know everything, right? As parents, we may think we do, but we don't. So we can learn something, not necessarily something that is going to be beneficial for my job necessarily, or something else, but I will learn something from this individual. This is another human being, and I'm getting to know this human being. There is something in there of value for me. So I pay attention. Paying attention means that, for instance, when we're talking to our children, we don't have our phones. We don't say, "Hey, tell me about, you know, what's going on in your life, and then we get busy. We may get busy with something important, but it's not as important as paying attention to our children at that moment. uh, we are telling them we are here. We can learn. I can learn something from you. So it's an expression of humility. Being faithfully present is also an expression of generosity. We are being generous with our time, with our resources. We are telling our child, you are so important that instead of me investing these resources in something else, something quote unquote more productive, I'm not doing it. I'm doing it here. You are that important to me. I'm not going to be watching the news. I'm not going to be watching the game. I'm not going to be reading uh, anything online, the news. I'm not going to do anything. Tell me about your life. And of course, we ask questions and or we participate in certain activities and we pay attention. Now, I want to emphasize this: don't get discouraged if the communication is not verbal. Okay, don't get discouraged. Just be there, listen, ask questions, listen. Okay, express in this way humility and generosity. The second component, the second element of how we overcome these barriers is being persistently present. And this, the idea here is that we are methodical, that we are formal in our approach to have time so that we can have these conversations, verbal or otherwise, with our children. In other words, this is a habit. It's not something that happened once in a blue moon. It's a habit of ours to spend time with our kids so that we may know them. We are persistent. And in being persistently present, what we're doing is we are expressing compassion towards them. Because what we're saying is, you need help. I can help you. I'm willing to help you. Here I am. And that's an expression of compassion. I'm being compassionate towards you. I'm here to fulfill my call that I have as a person of authority over you. I want to help you. I can and I will. And it's an expression of then compassion. And again, I want to insist is not the number of exchanges that we have, is the quality of the exchanges, the conversations. If every time that we have a conversation, we're faithfully present, if we are persistent, we could say also intentional in having those conversations, then we will get to know our children. Then we can continue with our parenting map. Basically, what we're doing is we are determining where we are. We already said we want to go in this direction. Remember, we talked about that in the previous video. We want to go in this direction. This is our goal for parenting, but we need to know, okay, where we're standing. Where's our initial position that we may make this map that will take us from point A to point B. And being faithfully present, persistently present, will help us to overcome the barriers of knowing where our kids are. As you can see, there's a stop button here. I think I may need to change it to pause instead of stop, but that may be for the next video. You need to pause here and think about what we just discussed. Think about it. Think about, do you agree? Do you disagree? Are there any other issues at hand here? Um, think about it, please. Don't just accept it. Think about it. And in the next slide, which is the last one of this session, we're going to talk about the homework for this session too. So pause it as long as necessary. Think about it and join me on the next slide. Well, here we are, landing, as we say, landing this airplane. We're finishing this session. And as we continue building this map, I'm going to ask you two questions. One is, what are you going to make? What are you willing to do to make room for the time you're going to need? What are you willing to, I don't want to use it, maybe here is a good way to apply that word, sacrifice. because you're going to need time, right? Remember, you're going to need time. You're going to need a room to be persistent, to invest this resource, time. So how are you going to make that room? They're going to be things to which you're going to have to say no, so that you may have room, so that you may have uh, a faithful and persistent present with your children. So, what is it? Think about it. Make a list. Make it as precise as you can, as specific as you can. Maybe it means that, for instance, you're not going to watch your favorite TV show for a while. Maybe it means that you're not going to pursue certain activities that you thought you should, either because of business or because of personal edification or entertainment. Maybe it means that you say no to certain activities for your kids. I don't know. What is it? What are you going to do? You need to make a list. Please make this list in the same place where you answer the questions from the previous session. And here is this is where I advise you to have a journal where you can write down um, this ministry, this parenting map. So you have it in a location that is easy access, a central location for you. So write it down. Okay, write down. This is what I'm thinking I'm going to do, so I may have room for faithful and persistent presence in the life of my children. Then the second question is, who could help you? Who could hold you accountable to fulfill that plan and to fulfill the whole parenting map when we have it in 2 more sessions when we finish it? Here, if you're watching this video with your spouse, and I will strongly recommend that you do, of course, that the other person, their spouse, is the one that can hold you accountable. You can hold him or her accountable, right? You work together as a team. That's the way it should be. If there is no other, if there's no spouse, or if you both think that you need extra help, this is where I recommend you approach your community of faith. You go to the leaders of that community and you say, hey, this is what we have been thinking about. This is what we want to do. Could you help us? And because we don't know each other, we may not know each other. It may sound strange, but I want to tell you, if you need help and you think we and my wife can help you, please let us know. It will be a delight for us. We will love to assist in any way we can. Now, know that if you have any questions about this or any of the videos, if you have any questions at all about the Parenting Academy, feel free to contact me. Again, it will be a delight to be in touch, to talk, to discuss these issues, these very important issues about how to be a good parent here in the US. So thank you so much for your time. I hope that you can join us for session number 3 next week. Thank you. Until then.